Hi, this is Mark from Success4, and we are fortunate enough today to have somebody with us who is an international speaker, coach, entrepreneur, and creator of SuperGenius Life, and that's Mr. Ryan Pinnick. Ryan, thank you so much for joining us on Success4.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
And Ryan, I mean, just going all the way back, just because there's a lot of people out there that I'm sure have heard of you and seen you speak, and and sort of follow everything you're doing. But there's obviously going to be a number of people on our from our international viewers and things as well who might not have heard of you. So tell us, just go right back to the beginning, where you're from, how you've ended up doing what you're doing.
Yeah, great, thanks. And again, thank you for the opportunity. I really love the work you guys are doing, and we've met you a couple of times, so thanks. We're actually quite a new business. We're quite a small business, really, in the grand scheme of things. We've actually been running in London since May. So I think May 2015. So I think our 3-year anniversary is coming up, which is quite cool. So I'm very humbled by the explosion of interest that we've had, and really enjoyed working with lots of people. But I'm originally from South Africa. And typical story, I had no idea what I wanted to do when I left school, and I did an aptitude test at school, and they said you can do medicine, journalism, or engineering because they're all related, right? So I took engineering because they said that's where I'm going to get the best job, and that's basically the decision-making process I underwent to just determine my destiny and fate. So not much thought gone into that, But I very quickly learned that even though I was successful in my career, and my career led me to England, which I'm actually very grateful for, I really quickly learned that I suppose I had an entrepreneurial spirit. I didn't know it at the time, but I wasn't happy with just working, going home every day, and also I wasn't quite happy with my income. So I kind of went on a little journey, as a lot of people do. I attended lots of seminars. I think I attended every seminar available on the planet in the first month. Twice,
like we all do. Brilliant.
And I just really discovered my passion for learning. I think there's amazing stuff to be learned out there these days, and thanks to technology like what we're doing here, we can learn a lot really quickly. In fact, my first job was an engineer getting conferencing set up. So the fact that we can just dial each other up now is amazing.
Yeah, and it really does open up everything to the world.
15 years ago, you needed a geek to get the call going, and even then it wasn't going to happen. So we're really blessed, and we're in a great time to have technology and help us out and connect and communicate with people. But I got into property. I did well. I got into a few things in business, and I did okay. And I think I'm a slightly different person in the sense that I instinctively or intuitively wanted to do something that I actually enjoyed, and many times I sacrificed profit over passion. I had amazing opportunities quite a lot of the time because I actually ended up speaking for a company called Rich Dad Poor Dad, and obviously through that had many opportunities to make a lot of money. And what drives me and my values is actually I want to make a difference. I want to obviously make a profit in what I do, but also what I do I want to enjoy, and so that has been something that's instinctively embedded in me. Now, I mean, throughout that journey, I made a lot of mistakes. So I remember my sum total of debt at one stage was £80,000, and I wish I had taken some of those more profitable opportunities. But I was always obsessed with what's my purpose, why am I here? And to cut a long story short, that led me into discovering what I teach now and been studying for 10 years, which is the fact that with awareness, we can actually understand ourselves, and then after that go about creating. And so I believe we all have a genius, and our purpose in life is to unleash that genius into the world.
So this takes us on to your SuperGenius Life that you obviously in the last time I was lucky enough to when I actually originally met you actually was when you were doing a talk about it, and it just puts everything. It sort of sounds so obvious, and I think with all these things in coaching and personal development and things like that, when someone says it to you, sometimes it really is obvious, but you need somebody pointing this out to you. Tell us a bit more about SuperGenius Life, because it's a great concept, which, you know, once people hear it and sort of start to put that into practice, makes massive difference. So
yeah, thanks. Yeah, thanks. And I'm always humbled every time I wake up in the morning. I go, oh my goodness, like I'm so lucky to have what we've created. And in all honesty, you know, we don't have a tremendous online presence, and we are working on that at this stage. It's just we're so busy with events and workshops; they're all sold out, and people say, "What's your website?" And I go, oh, "Mate, we're too busy running events to have a website." so I would suspect some level of genius came into that, but. We're a small business here in London. We are looking to branch out nationally in the next year and internationally 2 or 3 years later. So we're really focusing on our business processes at this stage. But what's made us successful is that our methodology is very unique. And the methodology, as I said already, I've introduced that, is that we all have a genius. Now, I would imagine a lot of people who watch your stuff have read Think and Grow Rich. Mm-hmm. And actually, there's a sentence or paragraph in that book, which is, in my opinion, the most important part, but it's not actually the main focus of the book. And in there, he says, after having studied, as you know, 100 of the top most successful people of that time in the States, he said that the biggest failure of people is their inability to transform negative emotions into desirable outcomes. Well, in some kind of mysterious, destiny-orientated way, I've learned how to do that. And I've been very blessed to have lots of mentors along my journey, but learning the ability to transform a negative emotion, which could be fear, anger, anxiety, and surprisingly could even be positivity or hyped up state. Mm-hmm. You know, if I think back to my real estate career, when I was investing and buying houses here in the UK and in America, I made more mistakes when I got too excited about things. Yeah. Than when I was fearful. When I was fearful, I was just at home going, you know. But then when I got too excited, I never did the research. Maybe someone pumped me up, like a really good salesperson or a glossy brochure. So even positivity and being overly hyped, sort of superficially hyped, that is for me a negative emotion.
Can be a negative, yeah.
So what we teach people is, let's not get rid of those emotions. You know, our society, we taught to get rid of those emotions through alcohol and other dysfunctional methods. Let's harness those emotions because it's just energy, and let's use that and transform those negative emotions into intuition, imagination, creativity, and even genius. And so that process, we've got kind of meditation-like processes that we teach, and it's through the effectiveness of those processes that we actually create amazing end results for our clients, and then they tell their friends. And so that's to be honest,
how you move forward, and that's how you run your business.
I'm a terrible speaker. I'm not even a nice guy. No, I'm joking. But seriously,
and the process is a really important part, because, like I say, the idea behind it, you sort of listen to that and you think, well, yeah, it makes perfect sense. That's simple as, really, isn't it? But the process is where you've really spent your time, and it's taken you, I understand, it's taken you a number of years to obviously get to where you are now. And over that time, you've perfected this process that really does help people recognise how to do that.
Exactly.
So and
let me give you an example, right?
Great,
just a business example. Last year, I got into Facebook advertising as a means for marketing. Okay, so that was fine. And then last year, January, a lot of people jumped on the bandwagon with Facebook advertising. And actually, to be honest, I've never done a course on Facebook advertising. I kind of just sat around and figured it out for myself. But then when people jumped on the bandwagon, the effectiveness of my campaigns depreciated significantly. I mean, we were paying now 5, 6, 7 times more for an ad, and back then I was spending 40,000, 50,000 pounds a month on advertising. So it's just not sustainable. Yeah. Now, I'm inherently a fear-based person. I grew up in South Africa. It's a very violent country. My dad was the president of a motorcycle gang, so there's even more fear there. So instinctively, I'm a fear-based person. And when I noticed that the advertising rocketed and the cost of it meant that I actually wouldn't have a business in 6 months, I had an immense amount of anxiety. But because I've learned these processes, you can almost say it's like mental, emotional alchemy, And because I took these processes, I went, okay, cool. I'm fearful. Don't close the business. Don't run away. Don't cancel all the events. Let's harness that fear and create new ideas. And so over a 2-week period, I completely revolutionized my marketing strategy. I came up with new ideas, and it could even sometimes be a little bit of synchronicity or luck. I mean, you know, my belief is that everything you experience is a reflection of your consciousness. So if you're then transforming negative emotions, then you are going to get good ideas.
Yeah.
And I completely transformed our marketing strategy to be even cheaper than when I first started.
So sometimes some of these things come along and you sort of see them. Yes, you've seen it as a negative to start off with, but it's actually ended up being a massive positive. You've actually ended up saving money, and it's probably made you just revisit something you should have revisited anyway. So
because I got a bit lazy. So I was like, oh, that's easy. Stick the ads on. 500 people show up, easy, you know.
Yeah.
So, but my point is, like, I'm not a marketing person. I don't have a marketing background.
Yeah.
And I wish someone had told me this about 10 or 15 years ago. If you can have that ability to intuitively and imaginatively connect to your creativity and your genius, you don't need a guru to tell you how to do marketing, for example. You can actually sit down and make up your own strategies. And in fact, I would recommend that, because if everyone's learning how to do it the same way, then there's no uniqueness. And actually, it's not as impactful as if you did something that stood out and was unique. The example I like to give people is, you know, the musicians that go out and create the albums, they're the ones that get the fame and the money, but the covers bands, they don't get it. They're just copying other people.
Yeah.
So I'm a big fan of people going out and figuring it out for themselves and creating something that is unique.
And you've been teaching this for a number of years now. You've been going out, you've been doing your talks, and where do you categorize yourself, Ryan? Are you a speaker? Are you a coach? Are you an entrepreneur? What, you know, are you all three rolled into one? You know, where do you put yourself in the market?
Well, look, I don't really define myself as something. I think inherently, I would say I'm an entrepreneur and also a speaker. But just listening to you, I do reflect back to when I was at school, you see. And when I talk about genius, I'm talking about our unique talents and gifts. And we all have them, right? And so when I was at school, interestingly enough, without training or you know, prompting, I was doing school reports, presenting in front of the audience at school, reading the sports reports, doing announcements. Like if one of the fundraisers wanted to raise money, they'd go, give it to Ryan. Yeah. He's funny, he can sell. And I had no training for that.
So you were the guy they always handed the microphone to, sort of thing.
Absolutely, which is why I had no friends, because I just always offended people. But but my point is that ability, that desire, that genius, if you want to call it that, to speak, that love, that passion for speaking was always there. I didn't learn that. And I suppose in some way in my adult life, I unlearned that. Even when I realized I like speaking, I went to speaker training courses, and then I had to learn how to speak in a specific way. And that just killed my uniqueness, right?
Yeah.
And so I love speaking, but also I love lots of other things. I'm very passionate about motorcycles. I just come back from Spain. I spent 3 days there racing my motorcycle.
I was going to ask you about that, because I mean, with everything you're doing, and obviously you've put in years of work into your business side of life, personal side. I know you love your bikes, and you know, and you know, and it's something I used to be quite passionate about, and there's nothing better than getting away for the weekend on a motorbike. But tell us a little bit about. So what do you do apart from teaching this? What's Ryan Pinnick's personal life like?
Yeah, 100%. You ask a very good question, right? And interesting enough, I think 18 months ago I'd given you a completely different answer. 18 months ago, you know, I think with any startup, lifestyle is maybe in second place. Because you've got this situation and that situation. I'm in a very fortunate position where I've created the business to be taking over really nicely, be growing organically. But one of the key lessons I've learned from my existing business mentor is the concept of patience, which for me is a word I was not very fond of. So what this has allowed me to do is to go, right, what lifestyle do I want? And I think 10 years ago, I got caught up in the hype of personal development, and you've got to be working 8 days a week, 27 hours a day. no sleep. Yeah, you sleep when you die.
The hustle and the
and it's easy to get caught up in that when you're naive and young, right? So what I've personally chosen to do, and I'm not saying this is what everyone else must do, but what I've learned is that I've got a good little business. We help people out, and actually my relationship with my partner is important. My relationship with my family, who I support in South Africa, is very important. And as you pointed out, I love my motorcycling. And here's the interesting thing, which is a paradox. Because I've actually designed a lifestyle where I do work, and when I work hard, but when I'm not working, then I put all my focus on that, and I make sure I have a bliss or a hobby, which is, for me, motorcycling is just the most amazing thing. To go around a motorcycle track as fast as I think I'm going, because I'm not really going that fast. It feels fast, but that for me is just, the absolute best thing. My partner, for example, is a dancer. So she's an entrepreneur, but she's also a dancer. She loves dancing. Over the last 12 months, she started dancing on this app called Musical.ly. In fact, you can see there's a little award that she's won. She won a competition. Sorry, she came second in a competition. She lost out to the guys who were finalists in Britain's Got Talent. So
okay.
She hadn't danced for many, many years. She's not been trained. But because she loves dancing, she came second in a competition. That company, Musical.ly, which is a new app, pay her to create dance videos. And her video was featured last week on the TfL tubes. So if you see these video ads, the video was there.
Yeah.
And she's not doing it for the money, but these opportunities are coming out. And so I think we got to really be passionate about our work, but we're only living once, and we've got to do what we love in terms of enjoyment, go travel, dance in the rain, ride your motorcycle. If people don't know what that part of their life is, try things out.
And obviously you've enjoyed everything you do, and it comes across, and comes across in what you're saying now, and when I've seen you speak and things like that, it does come across, because and you can always tell the people that have been on a speaking course and they're doing it as per the instruction manual, and that is all. It's just with yourself so natural, and the flow and everything is very good. And what that's enabled you to do is get to a point where you're speaking with some big names on stage. I mean, you've spoken with Lord Sugar, you've spoken with Gary V. So it's something that you've seen massive growth on, and especially over the last sort of 12, 18 months since I first met you, and we've followed everything you're doing over that time. To see that growth is amazing. And I think, like you say, a lot of that does come out of not the training, not how much money you make out of it, but the passion for doing it and the enjoyment of doing it. So that, really powerful.
That's great. And look, I'm not knocking any training. I think training is cool. Like I invest in training all the time.
Yeah.
But then we have to go home and go, okay, what part of that do I like, and where's my personality?
What works for me?
That's very important.
Yeah, definitely. So obviously, for most people, when they start speaking on stage, there's that worry of doing it, and this is something that probably because you've been doing it since such a young age, you possibly never experienced to the level of somebody that's maybe has to land a job and they have to start talking in front of people and things like that, which is normally the people that need coaching in it, the people that have never done it before, got to the age of 30 and land a job where they have to then talk in front of 100 people. So they have those sort of fears of speaking. I'm guessing you haven't been through that as bad as most people, but obviously when you go and you're talking on stage with some big names and in front of much larger crowds and things, do you still get that feeling? Do you still get that?
Yeah.
How's that feel, and how do you deal with it?
I'm going to give a surprising answer. Mm-hmm. I've presented a lot on business, property, that sort of stuff over the last 12 years, and I was good. I was adding value. It made a difference. So there's no question about that. But that was easy for me, right? And then I started teaching this stuff and speaking about this stuff and actually creating my own content, if that makes sense. And I tell you what, my goodness, it felt like I was naked. I was so anxious. I was so nervous. I remember last year, my friend Nick James invited me to speak at Expo,
which is
coming up again. So. And I was it was like asking a girl out on a date for the first time. It was, which I'm very bad at. And you know, I like that. I like that there was tension because A, it means the person cares. I think that's important. Yes, it does get easier, but I still get nervous. Now, this goes back to the work that I teach. The nerves, however, don't control me, don't make me compromise, they don't make me scared. Yeah, I make mistakes as well, sometimes on stage, get the day wrong, as I did. But my point is, I use that tension, if you want to call it that, in a positive way. So if I'm not nervous, then I get worried because then I'm either being too complacent, I'm not focused, I'm not prepared, or I'm not connected intimately with the audience, which is a very important part of what I do. So for me, but that's my personal take on it. I've never had anyone ask me this question actually, and I'm sharing something which I've been observing. You know, again, I'm speaking at Nick's event in May with Grant Cardone, and I will be nervous.
Yeah, I was going to say, because obviously we've got Grant Cardone coming over for this one. It's Gary, I think you had Gary V last time, which is a sort of contrasting two people there. But yeah, Grant Cardone, I mean, a privilege to be on stage with him, I'm sure. Yeah. And, you know, and I'm sure, you know, there's lots that you're still happy to learn from somebody of his caliber and vice versa. So,
I've got a free talk on Saturday, for example, right? 150, 200 people, no big deal. I get nervous, right? It's a different nervous, to be honest. Like when we spoke at the Lord Sugar audience, I thought, oh dear, is this audience going to be interested in what I have to say? Because there's that uncertainty.
Yeah.
So I do get nervous, but it's not a debilitating nervous where I'm sitting at home going, oh, I can't do this, and then I cancel, or, you know, there's that sabotaging nervousness.
Yeah.
I do get nervous. It just means that I'm focused and I care. And I think when people are doing what they really love, like when Danny, my partner, goes and dances for an audition or something, she gets nervous, but that helps her get focused, and I think that's important.
Yeah, and keep on your toes, definitely. And so, obviously, that's before you go on stage. When you come off stage, I know, you know, when, you know, people speak on stage and you come off stage and, you know, you get standing ovation, or, you know, or you completely there's silence, whichever one happens. You get this, you know, certainly when it all goes well and you come off stage and you get that buzz inside. And I mean, I know when I've done it before, and you more or less want to jump straight back on stage and do it again because you just get that feeling. Does that wear off after a while?
Do you know, we're all human beings, right? And I don't know how many talks I've done in the last 12, 13 years, you know, hundreds, maybe thousands. I know I did 13 in 2 days last year at the business show. So that added the tally up. It depends on the day, right? Because I like to be real with you. So I might be having a situation at home, or my family, you know, my dad's got dementia in the care home. Something might happen at home just before I'm about to go up on stage. And then it's like, oh my gosh, and now I got to go and really give my all to this audience, and I'm upset or whatever. So every event is different for different reasons. It's difficult to explain that. Now, I'm a bit of a perfectionist. I really have high standards. And so some of the time I could come off of stage, do really well, like make a lot of sales or get a standing ovation, depending on the context of the talk. And I would actually feel really down. And I go, man, I could have done better. Now, here's the thing. I don't resolve that tension in a dysfunctional way. I know I sound like a broken record.
No.
I notice, I go, wow, I'm really beating myself up here. I've got a standing ovation at an event, 500-600 people. Why am I beating myself up? And part of the work that I teach is to understand, what did we experience from the age of 0 to 4? If you read up Carl Jung's theory of psychology, talks about a process of individuation, which we all go through. You can have great parents or bad parents. That the quality of the child is not the relevant part, but we all individuate. And through that individuation, we make up stories about how the world works. And so part of my story is that nothing I do is ever good enough. Now, that's why it's difficult to compare one person to the next person, because we're all different. So I could get a standing ovation, you know, which happens sometimes. And if I bribe them with, you know, stuff. But that's actually a good idea. I'm going to do that.
Yeah, start that.
Steal it for everyone if you give me a standing ovation. But I can come off stage, get an amazing response, But because it was amazing and I never got that acknowledgement from my parents, I don't know how to deal with that. And then suddenly I could go, oh, that slide didn't work. I made a mistake here, and I could be critical. Now, sometimes I can do a good performance, not my best, and come off and go, yeah, that was cool. So I know that I'm a human being. I pay attention to my emotional reaction. Every talk is different. Every audience is different. Also, I'm a Liverpool supporter, so that massively influences my emotional state. So I'm up and down all the time. But my point is that I don't put too much emphasis on my emotional state after I get off stage, because if I've done a good job and the audience have learned and they've benefited from it in that context, then I'm cool with that.
Perfect answer. So Ryan, your next big gig is obviously in May. You've got Expo Empires again with and Grant Cardone obviously talking on stage with you there. If people come to Expo Empires and they get to hear you all speak, what can they expect from it? What can they expect to get in the way of value, in the way of sort of credit from there?
Perfect. Yeah, there's basically the idea of genius, right? We all have a unique genius, and I believe we can apply that genius in business, in your career, in your relationship. I actually even run relationship workshops around genius. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to be talking about three key things. Firstly, awareness. I know Gary Vaynerchuck's massive on this. But without awareness of what your genius is, number one, but also what that ego is, number two, and the ego gets formed in the individuation process that I referred to earlier.
Yeah.
You have to know both of those selves, if you want to call it that, mm-hmm. to be able to go out and be successful. Do you know, it's being successful is one skill, and actually quite easy to do these days. But what most people don't understand is what their ego is and how they individuate that. And then, if you can imagine, as soon as you become successful, you experience tension, right? And an extreme example is Amy Winehouse.
Yeah.
Very successful. If people haven't seen her documentary on Netflix, please watch it. I mean, I didn't appreciate her musical genius until I watched that. Mm-hmm. But because she was thrust into the limelight and had all this attention, she hadn't developed skills to handle tension to that degree, right? So what did she do? We wanted to get rid of that tension, and she drank and took drugs and stuff. And you'll find that this is a very common experience. Mm-hmm. I was just watching the Sky Sports, where the Aussies were apologizing for ball tampering and cheating. I mean, these guys were on top of the world, making the most money in cricket. Why would you carry a piece of sandpaper to scratch a ball when there's cameras? It's because instinctively our ego is there to sabotage us.
Yeah.
And if people aren't aware of that sabotage, then you will succeed, fail, succeed, fail, succeed, fail. Tiger Woods, classic example, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the guy was literally the talk of the town.
Yeah.
A more sensitive one, Oscar Pistorius.
Yes, yeah.
He was the second most popular South African after Nelson Mandela, and then he unfortunately murdered his girlfriend. Like, you just think, how does it happen? But, and I might say something controversial. I have a lot of compassion for people like that, because they've not been taught the skills to deal with the emotional intensity that comes with being successful.
Yeah.
So creating success and keeping it are two different skills. So then I talk about purpose, and I talk about creativity and how you can actually harness tension to come up with great ideas, to come up with innovation in your products and take your business and to the next level. One of the key things I'm very passionate about is that people must be aligned with a vision that is inspired by their genius. Because if you know what your true vision is as maybe an entrepreneur, or even just in your life, then you know which direction you're going in, and you know that all your actions are going to serve that vision. So that's a little summary of what we're going to go through. And I'm sure we'll have a little fun as well. I try to entertain the audience a little bit at my expense, obviously. It's a great event.
Yeah.
I'm very honored to, I think I might even be the only speaker that's presented at all three of Nick's events, apart from Nick.
Nick, of course, yeah.
So I'm very honoured, and I'm sure we'll have a good time, and there's going to be plenty going on there.
Well, it's going to be brilliant. We hope to be there, obviously, and we're going to be putting some links with this podcast so people can see for tickets and that sort of thing, and try and build that up a bit for Nick as well, because Nick's supported Success4 as well. He's been on, done some podcasts with us and things. So, yeah, it's really good. And
he's a great chap, that guy. You know,
yeah,
and my whole life is around Birmingham. I've got properties in Birmingham. My girlfriend's from Birmingham, and Nick's from Birmingham. And I'm like, so now I've got a Birmingham boyfriend as well. You know, so he's a cool guy, and with like the events he run are world class. Like honestly, I was so impressed.
And again, it's another example of somebody that's come a long way, fairly quickly. Really sort of put his heart and soul into what he's doing, and built up an amazing business. And with everything he's doing, it's it's done properly. It's not, he's not doing anything half-heartedly. And again, back to what we were talking about earlier, that comes through in the passion of what he's doing. And I think that's what really shines in, when he's speaking at his own events and things like that. And he, an amazing guy. So really,
and he's massively disadvantaged. Because he's an Aston Villa supporter. So you
had to get that one in there.
Techniques are successful, because if a Villa supporter can create that much success, then there's a lot of hope for
hope for everybody on the planet. So Ryan, I just want to say thank you ever so much for coming on. Really appreciate it. Can't wait to see you in May, and like I say, we'll put a link for the event and everything there. What's next for Ryan Pinnick, though? What are you doing next? What's on the agenda for the next 12 months?
Thanks for your opportunity, and it's been a pleasure chatting with you as always. I love the work that you're doing, and always supporting what you guys are creating.
Thank you.
The content and the media. I love the way you package it up. It's really cool. For the last 3 years, I really wanted to get our product absolutely fine-tuned. I want to make sure that if someone invests something with me, whatever it is, that they actually get an amazing end result. So we haven't paradoxically gone big over the last 3 years, even though we've had 25,000 people attend our events. Mm-hmm. To really hone down on the team, make sure our business and our support is very important. A big part of what I do is, even when people do workshops with us, we support them afterwards. So that was very important. It's easy to scale and go big and then not look after people, and that's not how I roll. But now that we've got that infrastructure in place, we'll be doing a lot more online, YouTube videos, hopefully doing more stuff with you. I want to chat to you about that.
Yeah.
And so people will be able to access more of what we're about. But if anyone is interested in finding out more, we currently run workshops in London. They can go to unleashyoursupergenius.com and come and check out a free talk, learn more about what we're talking about here. And then if they want to do workshops and learn the practical side of it, then cool. Yeah, no problem.
Perfect. And we'll put a link to the website with it as well. One of the things you just said there about working with us, which we're really grateful for, it's really great to be doing things like this, but also things like the collaboration with Nick, collaboration with, getting Grant Cardone over, things like that. How important is that in the coaching industry at the moment?
I think if I can bring it back to everyone who's listening here, because there'll be people in different industries, really, I think one of the reasons that I have a good little life, I'm not the richest guy on the planet, but I'm happy and it's cool, is that I knew what my values were. And one of them is integrity. Mm-hmm. And when I spoke about always following my passion and not necessarily going for the profit, I've turned down many opportunities where I could have worked with people and I could have made a quick buck here, but it was at the expense of other people, or maybe the way that, if we look at our industry, if the way that they've gone about conducting their business or their reputation wasn't great, I've just turned that away. And I think what's really important for people to understand is, what are your values? Like, what do you represent at your core, and never compromise that. Mm-hmm. Never compromise your values to make a quick buck. I mean, not many people know this, but there was a stage where I was in £80,000 worth of debt, and I was shown an opportunity, I remember now distinctly, and I could have made 20 grand in a weekend, but it just wasn't the right people.
Wasn't in line with your values. And
I was like, why did God give me this, integrity value? I wish I could be a shark, but
yeah. But that was the test, and these tests are there to challenge us and keep us in line, aren't they?
Same. My friends outside of the industry are going, "You're insane, dude! You just turned 20 grand down." And I go, I can't do that. I can't sell that product because I know it doesn't work. So I think the reason why I love working with you and I love working with Nick, and to be honest, I don't work with a lot of people, is our values are aligned. And that's really important. And then that stems down to how do you run your team? You know, all my team members, we've got 7 full-time staff. Every one of them has the same values, and we get on.
Yeah.
And it's very important to understand what your values are and what you stand for, what you believe in.
Really important message. Ryan, thank you ever so much for coming on Success4Meets. Like I say, I can't wait to come and see you speak again in May. And I'm sure there's lots of people out there that will be attending as well, because I mean Nick's events are just getting bigger every year and bigger and better. And so that's going to be amazing. And yeah, I must, from Success4's point of view, just really thank you for your support with everything we're doing. With our online magazine and things like that, it's going so well for us here, but it's going well because of people like yourself that are investing your time and happy sharing our stuff and that sort of thing. So we thank you for that. So and just wrapping it up, is there anything else that you want to say to the masses?
Yeah, I think, I want to talk to you. I want to say you must carry on doing what you're doing, and it's needed, and you guys are great, and I know that you're going to create an amazing influence and create some great content. So please keep doing what you're doing. I feel very grateful to have the opportunity to chat with you. It's always enjoyable. And for everyone else who's out there, just follow these guys. They're awesome. And get in touch. And never give up. It's such a cliche, isn't it? Yeah, I think for some reason I have a tenacity, and giving up would have been much easier dozens of times in my life. But at the end of the day, we only live once, and you have to go all in on your passion and your vision.
Well, I thank you for not giving up and doing what you're doing today. So thank you ever so much for being here. This is Success4Meets. We're lucky enough to have just done a podcast with Ryan Pinnick. And thank you so much for being here. Thanks a lot.